Good evening, everybody. I'm Mukesh Gupta. I thank Honorable Chair Dr. Premrat ji and the distinguished panelists on the dais and off the dais. I'll try to be as brief as possible. We've heard a lot of statistics and a lot of problems which are coming, which are there in the higher education segment. The problem is that problem of higher education are not new. Just that the scenario is changing and the problems are coming up in a different way. So probably I'm asked to speak on the examination front. I'll be talking about the examination per se as of now today. The testing and examination activities, there's a whole lot of activities which are being done at universities, both the entry level, at the term end and the process level, and at the exit level. We all hear that at times that universities have been converted into examination boards, examination bodies. And so that is one of the reasons why research and teaching pedagogy is not expanding and not coming up. So I'll not go into much in detail. Now the basic issue what my previous mentors, previous panelists have also questioned is, first we have to assess the objective of the assessment. Before really assessing the child, we need to really assess what we really want to assess, wherein we talk about the validity or the objectivity, and of course, whether which model will suit the entire assessment exercise. There are, of course, many options which are you can see on the screen, whether it's subjective or paper pencil. Costing, pricing is, of course, one area. So these are the different areas wherein which we need to talk about and look into before really identifying a platform and offering to the child or to children or to the students to really test what is needed to be tested. Because there are issues of languages, there are issues of special needs children, there are issues of population size, there are issues of the vast gaps between the urban and the rural areas. There's gap when we talk of Uttar Pradesh, and there being such a Herculean task of 25 lakh answer books to be, evaluated and submitted. So, seeing the mammoth task which is involved, we need to really understand which technology or which effort is going to suit and which the university should adapt to. Of course, we all know, as we say, the expanding university, the higher education is expanding, and in terms of the number of universities, number of colleges. So we'll just rush to this. Now, what is the challenge which is coming up before the universities? Of course, what first is, due to the growth in the number of universities and students, both the seekers and the providers, there's basic issue of human resources. How many competent people we have really to handle this examination exercise in the country? How many really qualified and processes which are tamper-proof, which are confidential, which are standardized to the requirement of conducting a test, whether the test is objective, whether the test is reliable, whether it is a confidential process, all these needs to be assessed. And so human resources is the first factor. Second factor is coordination amongst the universities. Of course, we have AIU, we've been talking about the other forums of vice chancellors and different things. But I think there's a lot of synergy missing in action. We need to really, we meet up in these seminars, we meet up in various forums, but how is one university taking cue from the other university? How the faculty which was existing in the same college using the efficiency of its previous faculties. We heard somebody from APJ say that that's a very good practice, I would say. But a lot of these things are not happening in the college itself or the university itself, let alone between the universities and system. Now when you talk of core competency area, when we get appalled when the vice chancellors, when we interact with them, we say, sir, the basic, fundamentally 80% of the university authorities are involved most of the time into examination activities. Believe it or not, it is a Herculean task. The round-the-year activity, whether it is entrance testing, whether it is processing, whether it's terminals, semesters, and then there's exit term examinations. So what happens to when we talk of research, what happens to the other areas which needs to be done? So what my fundamentally suggestion here is, let the core competency area be given to agencies which are suited for this. We've heard somebody speak before us. I'm not speaking for him. What I'm trying to say is, let us appoint consultants, or let us have separate bodies or separate boards in the university itself which take care of this, and let the university do what it should be doing universally. And wherein we talk of education per se. So whether education has become a commodity or it's a process. So is the education based on the examination which the student has to give? Which I mean to say is, learning should be examination oriented, or examination should be learning oriented. So I would say the learning has to be there, and then we examine what is being taught rather than the children learn what is going to be asked. So that's again a very deep area. Then we talk about the number of tests versus the number of requirement. When you talk of, there are universities in Delhi, which conduct entrance examination. There are about 37 entrance tests, and mind you, some of the entrance test syllabi is also same, but the student is asked to appear for the same entrance test for different programs. So this is really, and the pricing and the costing, and the child alone is a sufferer, and though there are so many things involved in the same process, but we really need to have that passion, have the commitment, and derive a value system. We have had so many wonderful people here in the morning, and I would say when we interact with these people, and when we see the passion in them, it is such people who are taking the initiatives, and who are not really simply talking and doing a lip service. When they go back at home and they're executing, that is where we see the light in the education sector in the country as of now. Now, when we talk of the seat filling and, of course, autonomy, resources, commitment, and then there's something called publicity information. These are challenges which the university faces. Then multiple entrances days, clashing, costs, procedures, objective basis. When we talk of non-usage of this is a very key area I would like to focus. There's a talk of having an entrance test for teachers before being recruited. That is a talk of taking examination of students before they enter into PhD. Why is it that so? Because there's a growing non-reliability of the exit test being taken by the child in the university system, which means to say that we are questioning our own system. So rather than curing the system where there's a fault, we are trying to create another system to say that, okay, what we are doing is bad, let's not cure it, we'll talk of another system, and let's start with this. So what we are seeing is whether we are seeing the full picture, or are we just identifying holes and trying to fill up, isko band karo, isko band karo, isko band karo. For what we have to look at as the entire picture. Now, there's an over-reliance on examination. Are we going to examine? Do we need to examine the child, or we need to assess the child? Examination is a point of time we need to examine him on particular areas. It could be written, it could be oral, it could be verbal, it could be interactive, it could be group. But when we talk about an assessment, whether a child who knows the spelling of all the words in English dictionary will be able to speak well, whether that is what we need to assess, whether he is good in English. So assessment has to be more important than the real examination. But here, everybody is talking about examination. Here would mean that the society or the children, we have made the mindset in such a manner. Now, when the basic purpose I have just highlighted for the audience here, that education is basically quest of knowledge, excitement of discovery, joy of learning, wherein we talk of education and we don't tell the child what to learn. We don't tell the child, we have to tell him how to learn. We have to tell the child how is more important than the what. So that child knows how to apply when he is required in his next program of study, or when he is in practical life. So how is more important? But somehow, and then when we talk of the next point, I'm saying that there's a parallel industry which is coming in, because there's a huge gap between the demand and supply. There's a huge gap between the actual requirement versus the currently being offered by the Indian higher education system. Well, these are some points. What is a good test? If somebody would ask me, I would say there's a rigorous validation, reliability testing. Validation again would mean what a test, and how there's a face validity, there's a content validity, there's a concurrent validity. Whether a test actually what is supposed to be tested. Is there any item validity? Is there any item discrimination? What items are going to really decipher whether a child really knows the subject or doesn't know the subject? So this is a huge topic, which it's a wonderful topic, but then it's a huge topic. I could go on and on. Then there should be minimum bias, and there should be, should be applicable to all candidates. For example, SAT has been questioned. SAT examination of the US has been questioned in so many forums, so many newspapers, because it is supposed to be helping most of the urban children rather than the rural children. So when a rural child from, say, example, in Bodh Gaya comes in, appears for an examination, or, say, example, a CAT examination, may not be, whether I'm not questioning the CAT examination or any other examination, whether there's any biasness towards the urban population, whether there's any biasness towards any particular sect, or whether the question item is supposing who was the first archbishop of this, then it's a community-based question. So the items have to be developed in such a manner that it is not biased, it doesn't favor any particular sect, and and on a global perspective, the entire item is wonderfully accepted. Now, I'll just try and be faster, sir. Then there's I'll come down to this. This is the production process. Again, I'll not go into this. There's some suggestions, there's some corrections which I propose. The first and foremost is a team which is involved in the examination process. We have to look into the commitment. If the head of the department